Pleasant greetings to all. We all love a good inspirational story, right? Let me begin with a story. The story of James.
Born on September 16, 1875, on a small farm outside Hamilton, Missouri. James's father was a poor farmer and an unsalaried Baptist minister. Although raised in poverty, he would remain faithful to the rigorous teachings of his parents. An abiding faith in God, the Christian ethic of the Golden Rule, self-reliance, self-discipline, and honor, formed the foundation on which he built his entire life. After graduating from high school in Hamilton, James held several jobs, including that of being a clerk in the dry goods store of John M. Hale. At Hale's, he began his training as a merchant. He also learned the trick of maximizing gain. Low-quality coffee was mixed with an expensive kind and sold deceptively at a high price. He thought it was a great selling technique. But his father, a Christian minister, asked him, "Tell me, if the person buying finds out that you are selling a product that is not good for the price of the best, will he think that you are just being clever and simply laugh about it?" Enlightened by his father's words, the 17-year-old pledged to himself, "I would rather be known as a Christian than a merchant." He left the store and invested his small savings in a butcher shop. Shortly after he became proprietor, the meat cutter told him he would have to provide the chef of the local hotel with a bottle of bourbon every week or risk losing his biggest account. He did so once, but immediately regretted it, and refused to continue the practice. The hotel withdrew its business, and his business failed. At 27, James opened his first store in Kemmerer, Wyoming, in 1902. In naming his first store the Golden Rule, James boldly proclaimed the idea that set his store apart from his competitors, namely, "Do unto others as you would have others do unto you." This is a picture of his first Golden Rule store at Kemmerer, Wyoming, in 1902. Shrewd merchants laughed at his naive methods, and predicted his imminent failure. But contrary to popular opinion, James's small and humble beginnings became a chain of department stores all over the United States and Puerto Rico. That boy's name was James Cash Penney, founder of the J.C. Penney department stores. To date, J.C. Penney department stores consist of approximately 1,100 J.C. Penney department stores in all 50 U.S. states, Puerto Rico, and Mexico. The company also operates 50 Renner department stores in Brazil. James's guiding principle, namely, "I would rather be known as a Christian than a merchant," is the spirit of Christian discipleship.
So, this story of James Cash Penney highlights for us the Christian disciples' golden rule to follow. Namely, "I am Christ to others." And there are certain elements we Christians should pay attention to. The first thing we need to be aware of is our identity. In James's principle, "I'd rather be known as a Christian than a merchant," we can substitute the word merchant with any other profession, if and when our professions stand in the way of our Christian beliefs and life. Our identity as a child of God is non-negotiable. The second thing we need to look into is anonymity. And this is one measure of true love. If man cannot be a Christian in a place where he is, he can never be a Christian anywhere. It means that we ought to be Christians and loving people even when no one cares to know who we are. The golden rule also means being faithful to God and our commitments even in anonymity. The next thing we need to look at in our lives of commitment to the golden rule is maximalism. It is serving with love and compassion plus more. Let us remember that it is the service we are not obliged to give that people value the most. The next element in our golden rule is consistency. Good, consistent circumstances don't make men great. Great men create good in every circumstance consistently. We cannot just do good to others sometimes, then be not good at other times. Consistency is a mark of maturity. The next element in our golden rule checklist is the virtue of humility. This is the door to all the virtues. You cannot be morally upright. You cannot be prayerful and religious. You cannot be spiritual or claim to be compassionate if you do not have humility at all. Then, the golden rule also calls for responsibility, the ability to respond always, immediately, and with joy. Responsibility demands that our accountability is first and foremost to God, who is love. And finally, to cap our golden rule prescription, we have to live and breathe only in the service of the truth, because God is truth. We remind ourselves that the minimum of love is justice, and the greatest measure of love is loving without measure. It is loving in spite of injustice, unkindness, unloving behavior. Yes, this is not a walk in the park, but only with God on our side, this is possible. This is achievable. So there you have it, our checklist for living the golden rule principle. Paying attention to our identity as a child of God, keeping the faith and commitment even in anonymity, practicing maximalism, being consistent in our resolve to be the best person God had intended us to be, practicing humility. This is the door to all the virtues. Being responsive to God's call and being accountable primarily to God, and living our lives always in the service of truth. May God bless us all.